the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the Internet with our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. You can also hear our show anytime, day or night, from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com, CCRShow.com, or from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And joining me today is Anna Little. Anna is the two-time Republican candidate for Congress in the 6th District of New Jersey. Anna, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Well, I'm glad to be with you, Rick, and I'm glad to be here on Tuesday, a change in schedule for us. Way to start off 2015.
Yep, little change in schedule, change things up a little bit to keep it interesting. And Anna, what a day in the news. How could we not start out our show by talking about the latest development from ISIS? A video has surfaced on the Internet showing that ISIS burning alive a Jordanian pilot and that the terror group has held since December. And already Jordan has vowed to execute prisoners, terrorist prisoners, that they're holding. And just incredible situations coming up in the Middle East once again.
Yeah, I think the world is literally on fire, Rick. The lack of leadership coming from this administration, partially to blame. Obviously, there has been, for time immemorial, the battle between Islamists and the rest of the world, but they do seem to be making such progress in establishing their coveted caliphate, and we are dealing with an enemy that has no borders and who lives among us. So this is very serious. I would argue it's a clear and present danger to the United States of America and to the world, and that leadership on this issue. And it's very sad that the administration is more concerned, the administration coming out of the White House, more concerned about political correctness than they are about protecting the lives of Americans and others throughout the world.
Anna, when you talk about political correctness, I have said for some time now that this political correctness is going to kill us. And when you talk about this administration, that's what's scary to me, Anna. We do not have leadership in Washington right now. Not leadership to stand up to the likes of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. This administration, this guy in the White House, Barack Obama, is the same guy who about a year ago called ISIS the JV team. I could go on and talk about the things that this guy has said that has come back to smack him in the face, such as we can't drill our way to lower gas prices. That was another one. Another one of his things is electric vehicles were going to take over the market. And we could go on and on and on and on and talk about things that this man has said, things this man has done, things this man hasn't said and done. That would make America stronger and more safer.
Yeah, and I think it's at this point, it's beyond the moment to be debating these things. I mean, we watched ISIS and Al-Qaeda both in concert make attacks on the ground, Paris, the capital of France. We've watched thwarted attempts be publicized in England, I mean, this is not something isolated to the Arab region, to the Middle East. And it's not about a single country versus the Arabs, meaning Israel. This is a worldwide problem. We can talk about the fact that these terrorist acts should not be tolerated, but if we take no action to stop them from occurring, then those are empty words. And at this point, I think the world requires leadership. I think that the leader of the free world, by necessity, is the President of the United States of America. And I think it's time for Barack Obama, with all due respect, to stand up and lead. He's in that office. He has that responsibility. He has that obligation to at least the American people, if not the free world. And he'd better step up and start doing his job.
Anna, what scares me is I don't think that this man is capable of that. It's like
he has people around him.
But he doesn't, Anna. That's the scary part. He does not have people around him that can do the job either. He has surrounded himself with people who believe in the same things he does.
Well, I will say this. He may not have chosen good people to surround himself, but God has put people in his path, Rick, like Louis Gohmert, with whom we're going to speak later on today, and there's a list of others. He needs to start listening to the people who know more than he does about this issue, and he needs to follow their leadership if he cannot provide leadership himself.
Well, that's another problem, Anna. He refuses to listen. He thinks he has all the answers. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, so why should he listen to anyone else?
Well, at this point, I think that the writing is on the wall. I think even his advisors can see that his absence from the march in Paris, the march in solidarity against terrorism, his absence there was a terrific gaffe and a mistake on their part. I think they see that writing on the wall. And while his rhetoric, meaning Obama's rhetoric, has been saying that ISIS is in decline, that they're JV, that they're minimizing their influence, it is clear that they are active and that they are as violent as ever. And when we look at the map over the last 5 years, to the ground that they've gained towards establishing that caliphate, and we think about what's going on in Iran, I mean, it's undeniable at this point, Rick. And I think this administration would behoove themselves to at least follow the leadership of better at this point, because they've completely botched it up until today.
Totally agree, Anna, but I don't think it's going to happen. As I said, I don't think they will listen to anyone. See, that's the one thing I said about George W. Bush. That George W. Bush surrounded himself with people who were smarter than he was. Okay? He surrounded himself with good people. Say what you want to say about George W. Bush, but he did that at least. Now you've got a guy who thinks he knows it all. Anybody who thinks they knows it all, Anna, is in for deep trouble. The problem is, when Barack Obama is in deep trouble, guess who else is in it? The rest of the free world. Because as you said, Anna, like it or not, the President of the United States is the leader of the free world. And right now, in my opinion, the free world is leaderless. Hey, Anna, we got to take a break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. You can also hear our shows anytime, day or night from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com or CCRShow.com, or your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our mall, tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state, so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com or ccrshow.com, or any morning at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com for rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this evening. It's 5 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. Please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. You can also hear our shows anytime of the day from our websites or your telephone by calling 832-999-1. Joining me today as my co-host is Anna Little. Anna, why don't we go over our guest list?
Great idea, Rick. At the 3:35 segment, I'm going to be speaking with Kevin Fobb. He's written articles in the New York Times, Detroit News, Michigan Chronicle, GOP USA, many other publications. He's also a former host of the Kevin Fobb Show on Conservative News Talk, WGTK, 1400 AM in Detroit. And he's also been involved with the weekly Clash Daily, Renew America, Conservative Warriors blog, and the conservative Lion's Den, whose articles cover the Second Amendment, illegal immigration, pro-life, and other domestic and foreign affairs issues. So we're excited to have him on the show today, Rick, and he's going to talk to us about Obama's Islamic terrorism denial in America.
Very fitting.
Is in denial.
Very fitting that we talk about this today, Anna.
Yeah, very, very fitting.
Very fitting.
And also very fitting will be the second guest. You're going to be in between, but my second guest, which will be the last segment, is Congressman Louis Gohmert of 1st District in Texas. He's the vice chair of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. How much more appropriate can you get? Mm-hmm. And prior to being elected to serve in Congress, Louis was elected to 3 terms as a district judge in Smith County, Texas. So you don't get anything past Louis Gohmert.
No, you don't.
He's also served as the Chief Justice of Texas 12th District Court of Appeals. So he's going to talk to us today about the latest assassination or execution by ISIS. That's the Jordanian pilot. You know, that video came out today, and of course Congressman Gohmert has asked to talk about that issue. And we may, if there's time, get into some of the issues with regard to Obama's interference with the Benghazi investigations and what's going on with General Petraeus.
All right. Actually, Anna, that interview is the second interview. Our third Our third interview today will be with Lachlan Marquet. He's a staff writer for the Washington Free Beacon. He came to the Free Beacon from the Heritage Foundation, where he was the conservative think tank's first investigative journalist. And Lachlan is going to be joining us to talk about an article that he has written for the Free Beacon entitled Sierra Club, Saudi Arabia's Best Ally in the Keystone Fight. So we get lined up today and a little. So, Anna, what else is on your radar screen?
Well, it's hard to say that there's anything else other than that terrible video.
Hard to say.
Yep. Yeah. We've lost now both Japanese hostages and now the Jordanian pilot. Now, I know the time of death is not clear. The video is not dated. It's unclear whether during these last furious negotiations to try to save the Jordanian pilot's life, whether or not he was already dead. I know that's unclear, but what is patently clear, Rick, is that we are dealing with a ruthless enemy who has no respect for the life of any of us, that they are portraying this execution of this Jordanian pilot as a healing in the chest of the infidels. This is not a healing. This is terror. This is a horror. This is pure evil, and it needs to be stopped. And if the United States of America cannot provide leadership on this very basic issue, good versus evil, then what is it that we stand for as a nation?
You're right on so many fronts there, Anna. You're absolutely right on so many fronts. Anna, do you think the barbarity of this latest act can be something that will finally wake people up, not just Barack Obama, but everyone else who thinks that ISIS is not a problem, who thinks Al-Qaeda is not a problem, who thinks that we can buy their friendship, who thinks that we can make them like us? Do you think the barbarity of this latest act can be used to change that?
Perhaps, but remember, there were barbaric acts that happened during World War II under the direction of Adolf Hitler, and we watched them from a distance. Yeah. And we took, in my opinion, and history proves, way too long to get involved. And yet, we have reminded ourselves annually about that Holocaust, at least among the Jewish populations. It went well beyond the Jews. But we've reminded ourselves, and we have stood together in solidarity, declaring never again. And yet, Rick, here we are.
Happens again and again,
and we're doing the same again. We are not involved early enough.
Anna, there's the only difference between now and the Holocaust is social media. And what's amazing is Hitler didn't make films about the concentration camps. Hitler did not make films about the barbarity of those concentration camps, the gas chambers, the ovens. But this group, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they do. So that's one of the differences between now and the Second World War. I don't know what difference it makes, but from what I understand, studying history, studying the Second World War, it wasn't until the war in Europe was almost over that the barbarism of the concentration camps came out. I have seen interviews of people who, American troops, the first troops into the concentration camps, were absolutely shocked. Absolutely shocked. They had no idea. Did the leaders know? I don't know. Did Roosevelt know? Did Churchill know? Did Stalin know of these camps? I don't know. But I would like to think if they did know about these camps, they would have done something sooner.
I agree, Rick. I think the leadership that was being provided during that time, although too hesitant in hindsight, was certainly much more aggressive and active, shall we say, than what we're experiencing right now from this Obama White House. I think that there is no excuse, given the social media opportunities to know the information that you've pointed out. And it is important for us to mark that there is no lack of knowledge with regard to what's going on right now, and therefore no excuse for the lack of action on the part of this administration.
Well, Anna, we got about a minute. Anything else you want to get into?
I think this is it. You know, this is the most important thing that we have to talk about today. I did go to an event, though, just last night down in Atlantic City, which is obviously a location where a lot of conventions take place in New Jersey. The Republicans had gotten together, and it's a state-level organization, but they did have a speaker at the federal level. It was Mr. Chertoff, who has been the director of the Department of Homeland Security, and his remarks were very on point to what we're discussing right now. The lack of leadership coming out of this White House has actually contributed to what we're dealing with worldwide at the hands of ISIS today. I'm on the mark, and you're on the mark, Rick, in discussing this, and we should probably have Chertoff on as a guest.
Oh, that would be great. And if you could make that connection for us. Hey, Anna, let's get the break out of the way. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC, and around the world on the internet with CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. You can also hear replays of our shows from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Joined in the studio today by Vincent Mateo and Mr. John Forsythe Jr. Don't go away. Anna and I will be right back with our first guest, Kevin Fobbs.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsythe, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we're trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. The would last with peace and liberty. It is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Morris Graphics is located in Woodbury, New Jersey. They provide printing and mailing services to businesses, professional offices, as well as nonprofit organizations and churches. They provide short-run digital and longer-run offset printing. Their service and pricing is the best value for printing and mailing in our entire region. Morris Graphics prints postcards, stationery, brochures, newsletters, posters, direct mail, product literature, labels, signs, and any of your printing needs. Morris has full-service in-house bulk mail processing and can supply mailing lists for your business or residential prospects. Contact Morris Graphics today at 856-845-4980. That's Morris Graphics at 856-845-4980. Or visit their website, www.morrisgraphics.com. That's www.morrisgraphics.com. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. For rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com. Sites look much better since Vince took over them. Or any morning at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. For rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. when our live broadcast ends, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. You could also hear our shows anytime there, night from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And a little, we do have our first guest, a very timely guest, I might add, and the honor of the introduction is yours.
Thank you very much, Rick. Listeners, we're going to be speaking with Kevin Fobbs this segment. Kevin Fobbs has written articles in the New York Times, Detroit News, Michigan Chronicle, GOP USA, and many others. Positively Republican, he's a former daily host of the Kevin Fobbs Show on the Conservative News Talk, WDTK, 1400 AM in Detroit. And in addition, Fobbs' weekly Clash Daily and Renew America, Conservative Warriors blog, Conservative Lions Den. The articles cover the Second Amendment, illegal immigration, pro-life, and other domestic and foreign affairs issues. We are very, very proud to welcome Kevin Fobbs back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're going to talk about Obama's Islamic terrorism denial in America. Kevin, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Well, thank you for having me, Anna and Rick.
Well, we're proud to have you, Kevin. We love the work that you do. And how appropriate is this topic given what's going on in the news today? How safe should we feel here in the United States of America when our own president does not acknowledge that we have a threat of terrorism here, domestic terrorism, Islamic terrorism, here on our soil in the United States of America?
You know, that's frightening when you think about it, and most people don't realize that actually this first happened January 20th, 2009, and that's when the president took the oath of office, and he actually backed away on that day from us as Americans and from protecting us as Americans, and that's the day actually where he actually began to implement this assault on America by taking away the very mentioning of Islamic terrorism and any kind of Islamic actions or extremism in the lexicon in America. And that in and of itself actually has hurt America, has hurt our safety, and has actually opened us up to more attacks because we can't fight back against someone that we can't name.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's that mistaken political correctness that this administration seems to be so, shall we say, consumed with. They don't want to mention the word Islam because they don't want to attach the terrorism to that religion. And yet, what all seem to have in common is that they're acting in the name of Allah. Now, how can you deny the relevance of Islam to that particular terrorist act if they're doing it in the name of Allah?
You know, that's actually so ridiculous. And you think about it, on its very face, these Islamic terrorists are telling you, they're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you who they're doing it for. They're telling you who they're going to go after. And they're saying that they're doing this as Islamic terrorists. Now, how much more do you need? I don't think that the FBI would need any more evidence than that. Yet, the FBI cannot, if they are committing a crime here, terrorism here, then they can't name the Islamic terrorists as Islamic terrorists. They can only say that they're criminals who are engaging in a criminal activity. How ridiculous and outlandish is that? Is to have our very own FBI or even counterterrorism experts not be able to defend America within our own borders by these perpetrators who call themselves Islamic terrorists. That actually not only puts us actually at total risk, but it undermines our security, and it certainly undermines our safety as Americans.
Okay, but let's talk a little bit about names here. We're talking about Islamic terrorism, but let's talk about ISIS or ISIL. They consider themselves to be an Islamic state. They have declared war on everyone but themselves at this point. And these acts of terrorism are then identified by those claiming responsibility as acts of war against the United States of America and the Western world as we know it. And yet we're talking about these terrorists, at least this administration is, as criminals. If it is an act of war as defined by the actor, him or herself, why are we not treating these people as enemy combatants?
I believe because when you have a situation as the president and as the administration, they seem to believe that these are a collection of people who happen to be occupying some land and who happen to be who actually are attacking both in Syria as well as in Iran. And he, for whatever reason, can only look at these individuals, these savages, as anything more than common criminals, just like you would look at Al Capone or Frank Nitti during the 30s and the 40s. So you have a guy who actually he's in total denial of what he's up against, and I think that his administration, because I listened earlier in the show, in terms of what the experts around him, he does really have experts around him. The only problem is he refuses to listen to his experts, and when he actually does listen to them, he goes the other way. So it's like he's using them as a sounding board, but not to get the answers that he wants, but to get the opposite direction where he is headed. So he has capable people who can give him the right information. So he either fires the generals or he fires the staff members. So he actually becomes even more and more sort of like surrounded by sycophants who will only tell him what he wants to hear because they know that their job is on the line if they tell him the truth.
Well, Kevin, I guess all of the terrorists, they espouse Islam. They act in the name of Allah. Now, not everyone who espouses the religion of Islam and acts in the name of Allah is a terrorist. Where are those? Right. So where are those who are practicing the religion of Islam who do not believe in this terrorism? Where are they to denounce these acts and to stand up against them and to give perhaps some kind of cover to this president in identifying these terrorists as who they are? If political correctness is of concern, where are the peaceful Islamists to assist with that political correctness?
I can tell you where they are. They are out there. Matter of fact, on my show, Standing at Freedom's Gateway, we had a group from Kurdistan who actually tomorrow they'll be on the show again to talk about what they're doing in Kurdistan to fight against ISIL or ISIS and to fight and to protect those 2 million refugees that are in Kurdistan right now. The problem with that is that you have the mainstream media who they actually have a narrative, and this narrative is that there is not a good Muslim anywhere, meaning those Muslims who actually are standing up, they have no voice. And they certainly are not. They're only showing you what they want to show you. In this case, they're showing you that these Islamic terrorists, but they aren't saying that they're Islamic terrorists. They're just saying that they're terrorists. So they really, and the only evidence that we have that they're actually anything more than that is that what we see in social media, radio shows like yours, Fox News, and so on. But other than the conservative media, that these are just, quote, common criminals who are engaging in common criminal acts to the extreme. So these Muslim leaders who actually are standing up, they're invisible because we are not giving them more airtime. We're not giving them more syndication of their views because they're out there and they're standing up.
To me, sounds like we have a call to action there because I think it would be very useful. Kevin, we've got to go to a break. Can you hold on for about 2 minutes while we identify the station?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you so very much. Listeners, we are coming to you live from our CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commando's radio show anytime, any day by calling 832-999-1199. While we're at the break, please check out our website, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. We'll be right back with Kevin Fobbs after the break.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
For rebroadcast of our shows, please go to our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com, or any morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. For rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this evening when our live broadcast ends, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. You can also hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Kevin Fobbs. And Kevin, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Not a problem.
Kevin, we're discussing with you your article, Obama's Islamic Terrorism Denial in America. Where was this? Where did this appear? How can people read the article?
Okay, they can find it at Clash Daily. ClashDaily.com. I write every Thursday on ClashDaily.com. They can find all my articles there, including this one.
Well, you know, Kevin, I'm impressed with anybody who can quote Sun Tzu from the author of The Art of War. I would like for you to read the quote that you have in the article from Sun Tzu and how it applies to what we're talking about today.
Sure. Here's the quote. It is said that if you know your enemies and you know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. If you do not know your enemies, but do know yourself, you will win one and lose one. If you do not know your enemies nor yourself, you will be imperiled in every single battle. End quote.
Okay.
That's important because this president does not know his enemies and he does not know himself. And that is why we, as Americans, are losing the war in terms of ISIS and also in terms of Al-Qaeda. And we will, as FBI experts have already pointed out recently, and counterterrorism experts have pointed out, we will see a Paris-style occurrence here on the homeland because this president is in denial. He refuses to acknowledge who the enemy is, and he actually refuses to acknowledge himself as the leader of the free world. If he understood what that position meant, then he would understand his duty and his obligation, and both he seems to forget or not acknowledge.
Kevin, on the heels of this barbaric act, by the way, the King of Jordan was on Capitol Hill today, and it's very interesting that this barbaric act of burning his pilot to death happened on a day when he was here in the United States. I wonder if that was planned in any way. But Jordan has threatened to execute any terrorist that they are holding hostage. Do you see any ramifications coming if they follow through with that?
Well, I think the ramifications are positive ramifications because I believe that the King of Jordan, I believe that other countries that are being affected or impacted by this, they have to take a stronger stand in terms of, right now you have this negotiation phase, and we're going to negotiate. You don't negotiate with these terrorists. I think that we come back with force. I think that the King of Jordan has to come back with force. ISIS has to understand that this kind of barbaric act will not be tolerated. And in fact, actually, we have to step up our actions in Syria, in Iran, and against their efforts, even more so in our own homeland, because we have to, if the president refuses to acknowledge who we're fighting, we have to understand who we're fighting. Congress definitely has to name it, claim it, and hold the president to task. Because this kind of ridiculous behavior that the president has done to abandon his oath, we cannot and should not tolerate. And I think also with the barbaric video that's circulating on social media right now of the pilot, this has to be another one of our lines in the sand, because we can't allow this kind of action to occur. Right now, ISIS is holding another American, an American female. Is that the line in the sand that we, as Americans, will finally begin to understand that we are under attack? We already have had 2 Americans that have lost their lives to this kind of savagery. We cannot allow this president to continue with that kind of action. This should be an impeachable offense. For some odd reason, this has not been, won't cross Boehner's lips, the Speaker of the House, and it may not cross McConnell's as the Senate Majority Leader, but certainly someone should have the guts to say that this president's inaction is an impeachable offense.
Kevin, as you said, we have to watch out because it will happen again, and I agree with you. There's a way with that. However, there's a way to stop it. In the 1980s, when there were a lot of people being kidnapped in Lebanon, did you ever hear of a Russian being kidnapped?
No.
Well, actually, there was one, Kevin.
Oh, okay.
One Russian was kidnapped, but the Russians found out who the kidnapper was. They couldn't get the kidnapper, but they got his brother. And what they did to him was they removed his ear and a male member of his body. And guess what? The Russian hostage was released, and there was never any other Russians taken. These people only understand one thing, and that's power and strength. You can't make them your friends. You can't appease them. You can't buy their love, but you can make them respect you with strength. So with that being said, if Obama stood up and took strong actions, it could stop more of these attacks. It could stop these attacks happening to Americans and others. But he won't. He won't, because he's too coward. Either that or he's right along with them, Kevin.
Do you remember, Rick, the apology tour that he took when that first year in office? That was a clue, a very big clue, that this president did not have our best interest, because he went around the world, especially the Muslims, apologizing for our greatness, apologizing for who we are as a nation, and apologizing for who we are as Americans. He was apologizing to these Muslim nations, and he was hoping that he could somehow, quote, appease them and make them a friend, not realizing actually what we are, who we are, and what we represent as Americans and as a nation. And I think that's one of the greatest flaws that he began his administration with, and it actually has been a crescendo of problems since that time, including last year calling ISIS a JV team.
Kevin, I want you to take the Kevin Fobbs crystal ball out of its little box there and look into it for a minute. And I want you to tell me, could this barbaric act finally trigger a change in the thinking of people like Barack Obama and others who thinks that we can make the terrorists like them? Could this possibly be the game changer right here?
There is no game changer with an ideologue like President Obama. There is no game changer when a person who has an embedded belief system that supersedes anything rational. This barbaric act will not change a president who actually accepts this as just a criminal activity. So no, I wish it would change him. I wish it would change the administration, officials who give him advice, but it won't. But what it may change is who we are as Americans, and putting pressure on this White House, just like we saw last August when he was out golfing. It was not the president would have kept golfing, but the outrage that Americans showed towards him, he reacted to that. So it is our outrage that the president will react to, and not the very act of barbarism that we see in the video and the cruel and extreme action taken against that Jordanian pilot.
Kevin Fobbs, I want to thank you for being with us here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Always enjoy speaking with you, Kevin. Once again, please remind our listeners where they can follow you and your writing.
Well, they can follow me at several places. Of course, Clash Daily, and you can also follow me at Community Digital News. That's Community Digital News, and also on Community Digital News Hour. And Examiner, of course. You can follow me at examiner.com.
Kevin Fobbs, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Anna, we got to take a to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. You can also hear our show anytime, day or night from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com or CCRShow.com, or from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Don't go away. On the other side, we're hoping to be talking with Congressman Louis Gohmert.
They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we're trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state, not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax, instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford. By eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-4900. Check us out on the web at www.ajAutobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Morris Graphics is located in Woodbury, New Jersey. They provide printing and mailing services to businesses, professional offices, and nonprofit organizations and churches. They provide short-run digital and longer-run offset printing. Their service and pricing is the best value for printing and mailing in our entire region. Morris Graphics prints postcards, stationery, brochures, newsletters, posters, direct mail, product literature, labels, signs, and any of your printing needs. Morris has full-service in-house bulk mail processing and can supply mailing lists for your business or residential prospects. Contact Morris Graphics today at 856-845-4980. That's Morris Graphics at 856-845-4980. Or visit their website, www.morrisgraphics.com. That's www.morrisgraphics.com. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, please check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com or ccrshow.com. Two different sites, different information on each one of them, but both link you to our latest show. Or any morning at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this afternoon, it's 5 p.m. Eastern Time, please log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And you can hear our show anytime, day or nights, not only from our websites, but from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Joining me today as my co-host is Anna Little. And Anna, we are waiting for our call from Congressman Louis Gohmert, so we hopefully will hear from him real soon.
Yeah, and you know, Louis Gohmert is very inspirational. I always look forward to speaking with him when he comes on the show. He provides the kind of leadership, the quality of leadership that I wish was coming from the White House. And thank God we have his voice to encourage us at times like this in the absence of leadership. You know, he really does remind us that the Constitution leaves we the people in charge.
Yes.
So in the absence of the leadership coming from the White House, Louis Gohmert can get us to provide the leadership from the perspective of we the people. And, you know, social media being what it is, while it works for the terrorists, it also works for us. Mm-hmm. Rally each other and to respond to those acts in an appropriate manner.
Someday I would love to see Congressman Gohmert as Speaker of the House. Then the Republican Party would have real leadership in Congress.
Well, we have the majority at this point, so leadership is up for discussion at a time like this. You know, prior to this, we were in the minority. Getting the majority was the focus, and appropriately so. We, of course, had our discussions of leadership at the appropriate time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the focus is always on getting that majority. But now that we have the majority in both houses of the legislature, it is appropriate for us to discuss what kind of leadership we would like to have among those majority members. And, you know, I think Louis Gohmert would provide that leadership. He does do so without the title today.
Well, I was speaking of maybe somebody to replace Speaker John Boehner as the leader of the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, well, John Boehner has done his level best to lead us. He has a different perspective than Congressman Gohmert, and I tend to identify most with Congressman Gohmert. I have respect for John Boehner, but we disagree on the means of moving policy forward in Washington. I don't think there's any problem in having discussions on the issues about our similarities and our differences among Republicans and Democrats. But I don't think that we should be compromising at the get-go when we're discussing that policy. I think we need to be trying to convince our counterparts in the Democratic Party that our position on the issues is correct and that it's also serving to their constituencies. That's an approach that Louis Gohmert would take. He would say, we're right. Let me remind you why we're right. Or if you haven't espoused it yet, let me show you why we're right. And why don't you come to us? Not start out with a compromise that we're not going to win this anyway. And I think, Boehner takes a different approach. He tends to think about what the differences are, and he tries to start off with a concession. I don't think that's...
Well, that's the problem we have in the White House.
Well, the White House...
We have a guy who wants to make concessions all the time. We need, in my opinion, we need somebody of strength to lead the Republican Party, or at least the Republican Party in the House of Representatives, not somebody who's going to start out from a position of, let's compromise first.
Yeah, and I think, Rick, too, it's important to note that leading with strength does not mean you're not civil to your adversary. We can be civil and still be strong and require movement from our opponents. And I think that that's something that Louis Gohmert knows how to do.
I do believe so. And Anna, speaking of that, we do have our guest on the phone. Will you please make the introduction?
I would be pleased to. Listeners, we're speaking this segment with the one and only Congressman Louis Gohmert of 1st District in Texas. He is the Vice Chair of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. And prior to being elected to serve in Congress, Louis was elected to 3 terms as District Judge in Smith County, Texas, and he also served as Chief Justice of Texas's 12th District Court of Appeals. Congressman Gohmert, welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's always good to be with you guys.
Well, I'm honored that you're here. I know Rick's excited, too, but we have some very important topics to discuss. First on the list, the Jordanian pilot. Why don't you just lead off? Tell us what you know.
Well, I mean, I know what I know you're aware of, and that is that the thugs at ISIS released a video that showed them burning the Jordanian pilot alive, having him in a cage and burning him to death. I mean, these people are the epitome of evil. And just like there was only one way to stop the Barbary pirates from the barbarism they inflicted on our ships and their crews, there's only one way to stop these barbaric thugs, and that is to take them out of this world. And I tell you, though, it is incredible. We know what their ideology is. We know why they did what they did. And yet we have the president today who made the statement that, whatever ideology they claim, in fact, his words, whatever ideology they're operating off of. I mean, holy cow. Everybody in the world knows their ideology is radical Islam. It's not Christianity. And even though the Admiral Kirby is now starting to adopt some of the Islamist language, we had Mohammed El-Biari, who had been on the Security Advisory Council, one of this administration's top advisors, even though he spoke up, was a featured speaker for a guy named Ayatollah Khomeini at the Ayatollah Khomeini Man of Vision for the 20th century. I mean, this guy's defended the Holy Land Foundation. Unbelievable. and it took years of complaining, and it wasn't until he finally, in response to ICE beheading more people, including American, he finally tweeted out that, gee, the caliphate's inevitable. People just need to get used to the idea. That was the basic tweet. And they finally decided to let him resign. But this is a guy who wrote just recently in the last few days that, we ought to be calling out Christians as Christianists and referring to Islamists, radical Islamists, as evangelicals. Well, evangelical has a whole different meaning. But lo and behold, this administration immediately jumped on the bandwagon and referred to the radical Islamist thugs as evangelical. So, I mean, it's amazing. This administration is so compliant, subservient to what radical Islamists want us to say and do. I was just meeting earlier with a Christian from the Middle East, and she had a very cute accent, but she talks about how Christians in the Middle East don't understand why the United States does not do more to stop radical Islam, that we seem to keep supporting it and seem to turn on anybody who actually takes up for Christians, like when the Egyptian people rose up and threw out the Muslim Brother President Morsi and apologized, walked to the Christians, walked hand in hand with them. Well, we had the president. Of course, there were at least one or two Republican senators that didn't know which side to be on, but the president supported the Muslim Brotherhood and demanded they put in Libya. We're forced to revisit what happened there again. But this administration, when we knew there were Al-Qaeda elements to the rebels, we begged the administration, hold up until we find out how widespread the Al-Qaeda element is of the rebels you want to support. He couldn't wait. He became the big bomber, and, we took out Gaddafi's government and stopped his caravan. Gaddafi was begging to have a truce earlier on to avoid bloodshed, and in the name of avoiding bloodshed, this administration sided with the Al-Qaeda elements, and helped them take out Gaddafi. And Libya is still in turmoil because of the actions of this administration doing the will and the whims of what radical Islam was hoping we would do. It's just outrageous. But in talking to people all over the Middle East and different places around the world, they do not understand why this administration keeps helping the bad guys and not lifting a finger to help Christians.
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're talking with Congressman Louis Gohmert of Texas. Congressman Gohmert, is there any meaning, or can something be taken out of the fact that the murder, the barbaric murder of this Jordanian pilot happened on the day that the King of Jordan was on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's probably, well, actually, they did not kill the pilot on the day he was on Capitol Hill. As I understand it, they killed him a few weeks or so ago, but just chose to release the video today. So these are people you cannot trust. But as I understand it, he was not killed today. He was killed early January, maybe a month ago, was the latest I'd understood. So if that's wrong, I'll stand corrected. But they certainly like the idea of releasing the video on the day King Abdullah is here.
Do you think that was planned?
Incredible man. He is an incredible man, and we're honored to have him in Washington. He was going to participate in the prayer breakfast festivities this year. I don't know that he'll be able to stay now, as I understand it.
Do you think it was absolutely planned to release that video today to embarrass him?
Well, obviously that they want to embarrass him. I don't know of any other reason why they would release it today, but clearly they would like King Abdullah gone. Mm-hmm. He is what we should consider a true moderate Muslim. He, as one Jordanian has told me just here recently, he allows Christians to avoid persecution in Jordan. Mm-hmm. And we know that he also keeps a stabilized border with Israel. And that's unusual for Israel to have one border that's stabilized. But he is so important. And it is critical that we show support for someone that helps provide stability in the area. And that's what King Abdullah does. He is an amazing man.
Congressman, Jordan has threatened to execute terrorists that they're holding as retaliation. Is this what it's going to take, a tit for tat to show strength to the other side, that this will not be accepted?
That's what they understand. They understand when you show strength, and unfortunately, our president doesn't get that yet. But when we reach out and try to beg Iran not to develop nukes, and we show no strength against radical Islamists in Iran, we show no strength against the radical Islamists in Egypt, and yet basically demand accommodation of them, as has been done in the past in Egypt, and supported the radical Islamists that were trying to oust Gaddafi, then, they don't understand from that the United States is anything more than a paper tiger to be led around by the nose. But hopefully there will be somebody who will understand the importance of showing strength and not weakness. Let's face it, even in Afghanistan, this administration for 2 or 3 years was in effect begging the Taliban to come to the negotiating table. This administration offered them fabulous offices that the U.S. would provide in Qatar to give them an international presence. We offered them all kinds of. We'd release more of their murderers from prison if they would just sit down and talk with us with no other preconditions. So it was no wonder that radical Islamists see the United States as being extremely weak. This administration thinks sitting down and talking with them will be effective when they only know one thing, and that's show of power. And just as Thomas Jefferson was originally reluctant to build a military and go after the radical Islamists called the Barbary Pirates, eventually he realized this is the only thing they're going to understand. Now, I don't expect this president to ever get that. I think it's going to take a new president with some objectivity that will get this and understand the importance of showing strength. And I've had others say, do you Americans know that really you're not bombing as many radical Islamists as you are buildings in Syria? That you're supposedly going after the bad guys, but the bad guys are still killing Christians and moderate Muslims. It's not been nearly as effective as it could and should have been. And actually, if this president would go after ISIS as strongly as he went after our allies in the Gaddafi administration in Libya, then ISIS would already be on the run and basically done.
Congressman, I know you got to leave in about 30 seconds, but quickly, is the barbarity of this act, burning a man to death, taking terror to a new level?
It's hard to say. It shows who they are completely. But when you can do a slow job of cutting a man's head off, then it shows that you are beyond redemption, that you just need to be eliminated from this world and deal with your punishment in the next.
Congressman Louis Gohmert, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay.
God bless.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go, Anna. Congressman Louis Gohmert.
He's my hero, Rick.
Yeah, mine too. I love the guy. Thanks to you. You introduced him to the conservative commandos, and so grateful for that. And now we see him all over, and he is one of the true conservative leaders, in my opinion. And every time,
White Knight.
you know, and every time things go bad, we get bad news. I think, what the heck is going on in Washington? I always think of people like Congressman Gohmert, that at least there are men like him and Congressman Steve King that are there in Washington that have our backs.
Yep, and he does not mince words, Rick. Congressman Gohmert says it like it is. He sees good, he sees evil, and he calls it what it is. Just by a quick reflection on how I met Louis Gohmert, he called me a fireplug. Not bad himself. I walked into the New York meeting, which is an off-the-record meeting that happens among conservatives in New York City. There are a few conservatives in New York City, but I was at that meeting he was presenting. I was attending, of course. I was introduced to him by a mutual acquaintance, and I started to talk about what I do for a living in my day job, which is immigration law. And he asked if I spoke Spanish. Obviously, he's a Texan, so he was interested in this. This border is quite an issue. And, of course, I rattled on in Spanish for a little bit, and, he was tickled by that. And then when he found out I was running for Congress, he told me that he had to interrupt me for a minute, and he turned his back. So I thought, my 5 seconds were over for talking to him. He turned around, and he had written a check from his personal account to donate to my campaign.
Wow, that is incredible.
How we started off.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
The second time's even more illustrative of who Louis Gohmert is, and we call him Louis at his instructions. He came in to, again, present at a similar meeting months later. I hadn't had any contact with him. He remembered who I was. I was in the back of the room. I'd come in late. I get the flat hand on the back of my head. It's on something I'm writing. And I turn around. Who is this? It just whacked me on the back of the head. Here it was, Louis Gohmert walking by. I didn't have time to chat. I was going to make sure I knew he recognized me and was saying hello. And, he's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
And he's, humble enough to know that, there are limits to what one person can do, but completely empowered by his sense of what's right and what's wrong. And he is using everything God's given him to make sure that he's moving things toward the right and away from the wrong. And he's just an amazing leader. And so I'm just so pleased that we had him on the show today. And I'm so glad to have his insight as to what's going on with ISIS in this recent news.
Anna, do you remember the time we did the show from the Heritage Foundation studios, and we had Congressman Gohmert right before him we had Congressman Michael Burgess, then we had Congressman Joe Wilson, Congressman Gohmert come in, and right after Congressman Gohmert, Congressman West was supposed to join us. But there was Congresswoman Bachmann who was supposed to join us. And she was pulled away. She couldn't make it. And just as Congressman Gohmert was leaving, I mentioned to him about being a Christian in Congress and how he sat down, just with mentioning that, he sat down for another 20 minutes and talked with us from the heart about his faith, his belief, and how much his faith and belief meant to him as a congressman.
Yeah, and I think we need people of faith, men of faith, people of faith leading us today. We are dealing with the ultimate battle of good versus evil, Rick. It is clear to me. I think it's clear to every voter, every American. People throughout the world are seeing it. This is depravity. There is no depravity unless you are focused on evil and the ends of evil. There is no targeting of Christianity unless it's coming from the devil himself. I mean, we are dealing with...
Agree.
It is an unmistakable situation. And the fact that this particular administration chooses to create a lack of clarity where there is no lack of clarity on the issue, it tells me that they are, at the very least, missing the point. And I think I'm being generous there. Look, when you're dealing with good versus evil, you're either part of the problem for your part of the solution. I think it's clear where this administration is, and I think that we have got to, as we the people directing our government, move this country and the world toward a solution. And we cannot tolerate this barbarism anymore. If we don't stand for human rights in America, what do we stand for? We must stand for what is in our Bill of Rights on our own soil and around the globe, or we stand for nothing.
Totally agree with you, Anna. Hey, Anna, we're going to go to a break in about 2 minutes, but I wanted to mention something here, that tomorrow on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're scheduled to have another great guest. Governor Mike Huckabee is going to be joining the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're going to be speaking with him about his speak. We'll also get his input as far as this barbaric act that took place, or was known that it had taken place today. And also maybe we could talk with him about what kind of a leader that we do need in the White House. I think it's pretty wide known that although he hasn't officially announced it, that he left Fox News as a commentator and host to prepare a run for the presidency. So hopefully we'll be able to talk with him a little bit about that tomorrow here on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, that's pretty exciting stuff. You know, Mike Huckabee is another man who has the center, the center of his life, that morality that is necessary for true leadership in the face of evil. So he's another man that I think we can trust to provide leadership in the face of what we're dealing with today. Indeed.
All right, Anna, we got about a minute and a half. Anything else on your radar screen before we go to our next break?
I think we the people have got to take action at this point, Rick, and if you would permit me, I'd like to kind of do a little bit of a call to action to the listeners.
All right.
Who are the movers and the shakers? You're the ladies and gentlemen who get it. That's why you're tuning in to Conservative Commandos radio show today. It's up to you to speak out. We have social media. It is a tool that works extremely effectively for the terrorists. It can work equally and even more effectively for us. We have to stop discussing what has already occurred and start talking about proactive action to eliminate or create a solution to this problem. We've got to direct our representatives. We have both houses of the legislature. Yes, typically, war is declared by the president. Confirmation is received from the legislature. I see no reason, though, that it cannot be directed in the opposite. Let's put the political pressure on this administration to take action. Let's use the two houses of your legislature, listeners, that you've taken back, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and now let's use that majority to put the political pressure on this administration to take action to create a solution to eliminate the enemy, ISIS, from the earth, as Congressman Gomer suggested we must do.
All right, Anna, with that, we're going to take a break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Anna Little and Rick Trader coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. And around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and ThePunditPress.com. Now you can hear our shows anytime, day or night from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com or CCRShow.com, or from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Lachlan Marquet, staff writer for the Washington Free Beacon.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card, or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is reason for our retired to move to another state so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Morris Graphics is located in Woodbury, New Jersey. They provide printing and mailing services to businesses, professional offices, as well as nonprofit organizations. They provide short-run digital and longer-run offset printing. Their service and pricing is the best value for printing and mailing in our entire region. Morris Graphics prints postcards, stationery, brochures, newsletters, posters, direct mail, product literature, labels, signs, and any of your printing needs. Morris has full-service in-house bulk mail processing and can supply mailing lists for your business or residential prospects. Contact Morris Graphics today at 856-845-4980. That's Morris Graphics at 856-845-4980. Or visit their website, www.morrisgraphics.com. That's www.morrisgraphics.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. You can hear rebroadcast of our shows from our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com, or any morning at 9 a.m. log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And at 5 p.m. you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show by logging on to cprworldwidemedia.com. Our next guest is Lachlan Marquet. He's a staff writer at the Washington Free Beacon. He came to the Free Beacon from the Heritage Foundation, where we first met him, and where he served as the think tank's first investigative reporter. He's also been a contributing editor at newsbusters.org, and his work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, and the Washington Examiner. Lachlan, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great to have you. And we've asked you to join us today to discuss one of your latest articles, Sierra Club. Saudi Arabia, quote, our best ally in the Keystone fight. Lachlan, you start out your article by saying, leading environmentalist groups heaps praise on the Arab monarchy's attempt to undermine U.S. oil production, Saudi Arabia's efforts to, quote, drown American oil producers, make the oil-rich country of Saudi Arabia a critical ally of the environmentalist group. Lachlan, please tell us about Arabia's efforts and talk a little bit about their new environmental buddies.
Sure. Well, basically what Saudi Arabia has been doing in their capacity as one of the leading countries in OPEC is essentially, one would think that they would be trying to sort of buoy oil prices. We've seen a historic drop in oil prices lately. Mm-hmm. And of course that really hurts economies that are very reliant on oil, such as Saudi Arabia and most of the members of OPEC. Mm-hmm. Instead, what they've done is they've decided not to slash production, which would push prices up. Instead, they basically said, let's continue producing and let's wait for the price to go so low that it's no longer economical for American oil producers and Western oil producers to extract this stuff out of the ground. A lot of these American producers are, of course, using hydraulic fracturing and other sort of innovative techniques that have allowed us access to a lot of oil but are very expensive and aren't really cost-effective once oil goes below a certain level. Mm-hmm. So that's what they're trying to do, and that kind of makes them a natural ally of environmentalists who are trying to end the American oil industry. And they say, okay, hey, if Saudi Arabia wants to destroy this fracking-induced oil boom, we're on board with that.
Okay, and your article, as the title indicates, the Sierra Club is part of this, and they see it as Saudi Arabia in a fight against the Keystone XL pipeline. This is a stupid question, but we have to ask it. Sierra Club, why are they so afraid of the Keystone XL pipeline? Because I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Lachlan, recently I looked at a map of the United States that displayed routes of existing pipelines. And there are literally thousands upon thousands of miles of pipeline already crisscrossing our country. Why is the Keystone XL pipeline such a target by liberals, Democrats, environmentalists, specifically the Sierra Club?
I mean, it's sort of become a symbolic effort that is much more sort of politically, much more of a political lightning rod, sort of outsized compared to the influence it would actually have on energy markets. That influence would be relatively small. And, even the president's State Department has said that, if the Keystone Pipeline is not built, this oil will get out of the ground. Canadians are going to extract it. Now, that could change depending on whether prices remain where they are or go back up. But the long and short of it is that this has become sort of, the cause of the day for the environmental left. And they can sort of put a feather in their cap if they pressure the president into vetoing legislation approving it and eventually get his State Department to reject the project altogether. So basically, they just really need a victory. Cap and trade went down in flames a few years ago. The American public is really not that concerned about environmental issues right now. Certainly not when you weigh it against economic issues. So that they need something that they can point to their supporters, or they can point at for their supporters and say, DC, here's what we're doing. We scored this big victory. So it's really more of a symbolic effort.
All symbolic. Hey, Lachlan, in your article, you talked about a fellow by the name of Paul Reiber. Could you tell us about him and his connection to the Sierra Club?
Well, he is the editor of their bi-monthly magazine. It's called Sierra. And he was the one who actually wrote this article that said, that Saudi Arabia is our best ally. So, he's part of one of the biggest environmental organizations in the world. I thought that made his comments noteworthy.
All right. In your article, you have an interesting note in here that Barack Obama has threatened to veto legislation expediting approval of the pipeline. However, Robert said that the government of Saudi Arabia has done more to scuttle the Keystone XL pipeline, and you talked a little bit about the fact that Saudi Arabia is keeping the tap open so that the price of oil does drop to a point it's no longer economically feasible for hydraulic fracturing and things like that. You also write in your article, environmentalists are depending upon Barack Obama's veto pen to block the project, at least until the State Department issues its final ruling in the matter. Robert wrote, quote, but we have another, even more potential ally in the fight, and that's the House of Saud. Now, they're not in communication with each other, obviously, but is this ally, the allies between the Sierra Club and Saudi Arabia, do you think it's going to stop the Keystone XL pipeline, as they hope?
It's looking less likely just because in the last 3 days we've seen the price of oil shoot up by almost 20%. It was down $44 a barrel, and I believe we're up around 55 today. So the idea is similar similar to what I was talking about with hydraulic fracturing. The oil that would be transported through the pipeline is it comes from what's been called these oil sands in northwestern Canada, it's a very heavy crude. It's very difficult to refine, and it makes it much more expensive to refine. So the idea is that that'll probably only be economical if oil is between $50 and $60 a barrel, which it is right now. So when Mr. Rauber wrote this, probably a week or two ago, it might have been the case, but we're seeing the price of oil slowly rebound, which might not be great news for people filling up their cars at the pump, but might enable more producers to continue churning out oil rather than having to sort of set aside production until the price goes back up.
It's a real delicate balance, isn't it?
It is.
Between the price of oil, production, and whatever. Hey, Lachlan, we have to take a short break. Could you hold for just 2 minutes for us, please?
No problem.
You are listening to the Conservative Commando's radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, TalkStreamLive.com, and the Pundit Press. You can also hear rebroadcasts of our shows from our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Our guest this segment is from the Washington Free Beacon, Lachlan Marquet, and we're talking about the Sierra Club and Saudi Arabia being allies in the Keystone XL fight. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our guest.
They say I'm messy, but
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You can hear a rebroadcast of our shows at our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com or ccrshow.com, or any morning at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And for rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this afternoon Eastern Time, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. And you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Lachlan Marquet from the Washington Free Beacon. Thanks for holding through that break, Lachlan. We appreciate your time.
No problem.
And we're talking about how environmentalist groups like the Sierra Club are lauding Saudi Arabia for stopping a lot of hydraulic fracking and potentially the Keystone XL pipeline. And to kind of summarize, you got a great line or two here in your article, Lachlan, when you say the idea is to make oil so cheap that American producers can't extract it. The current surge of U.S. oil production is the result of expensive extraction techniques, hydraulic fracturing, and horizontal drilling that could be cost prohibitive if the price of oil falls. And when I read that, Lachlan, this is what came to my mind, and I want to get your reaction to it. There's already indications that gas and oil exploration and fracking in this country is beginning to slow down. I have friends in North Dakota that where there's been an oil boom for the last 8 years or so, who are moving out because they can't find work now. And so let's say that Saudi Arabia is successful in stopping fracking and that the price of oil goes back up. Lachlan, I believe that all this will do is to raise the price of gas and oil, and that to the point where drillers can go back into the fields. And by then, maybe there will be an administration in Washington who is more sympathetic to real American energy independence. Am I trying to think too much outside the box?
No, I think that's exactly right, and that's kind of the beauty of the market, is that, you know, we have this glut of oil right now. There's so much of it. Prices go down so far that maybe some of these drilling operations dry up. But the minute that the prices go back up to a level where it's again economical to go about hydraulic fracturing, horizontal drilling, and so on, these same companies go right back to these wells and they just keep extracting more oil. So there have sort of been attempts, with the EPA has proposed this new rule on methane emissions, which is really going to hit the natural gas industry. There are measures that they've taken that will probably dent hydraulic fracturing induced production, but for the most part, they haven't really been able to stop it, whether or not they want, whether or not that's their intention. The market forces here, I think, are doing a whole lot more than any regulation that the Sierra Club or others have pushed to put a damper on this. But as you know, that's not going to last. Eventually, the market's going to rebound.
Here on a Conservative Commando's radio show, we're speaking with Lachlan Marquet. He's with the Washington Free Beacon. And, every time I hear this debate about oil prices, how low they are now, it's actually kickstarted our economy to the fastest growth in the last 11 years. Tell you what keeps going through. Just about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 now, Barack Obama stating to a crowd, you can never drill your way to lower energy prices. I mean, and if he got it wrong on something as simple as that, just think of all the other things he's getting it wrong on.
Well, I agree with you, Rick, and I wanted to jump in here and just make a couple of observations, and then, of course, our guests can react to those. But it looks to me like these environmentalists are abandoning their mission when they are claiming agreement with a country who depends for 95% of its economy on oil production. I think the only purpose of Saudi Arabia in having a horse in this race is to make sure that they're the leader in export and not the United States of America, and that they don't lose the opportunity to export oil to the United States of America. And none of this goes toward the mission of the Sierra Club, which is a leading environmentalist group. It just seems like a complete, flagrant contradiction in purpose and perhaps an abandonment of the mission of the organization. And certainly it's going to undermine the opportunity for this country to be energy independent, which we recognize as a matter of national security. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to let you react.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think I quoted someone in the story who said something to the effect of, this is cutting off your nose to spite your face. Mm-hmm. The environmentalists are so determined to stop the Keystone Pipeline that any measure that sort of advances that goal, they're going to support, even if it means bringing the price of oil down so low that no one would ever even consider enacting, a gas tax or further restrictions on the use of fossil fuels and so on. It's tremendously short-sighted for them, and it's tough to tell exactly how they're committed to, how committed they are to this sort of this line of attack. But I couldn't believe it when I first saw it, but there they are endorsing it. So.
Lachlan, I believe you're actually educating the public when you write in the article, the world's largest oil producer is actually the United States. Thanks to the ongoing fracking-induced surge in production, Saudi Arabia hopes to reverse that trend, and Raber endorsed the strategy, which he said is sure to stifle new production. Now, Lachlan, I'm a whole lot older than you. I remember the first rock cracking into, but over 40 years ago, or over the past 40 years ago, all we've heard about is how strategically important it was for the United States to become energy independent. So after all that time, we finally reached a place where much of our energy needs are coming from our own resources. And now these people, like the Sierra Club, want to stifle new production. Lachlan, are these people dinosaurs in their thinking, and are they so hell-bent in their ideology that they'll do anything to oppose any energy exploration at all, except for the stupid wind and solar that they promote? And they also promote things like, here in New Jersey, the Sierra Club endorsed cutting down 40 acres of trees to install a solar farm, and they also support windmills that have killed more birds than any oil spill.
Yeah, I mean, I think a telling example is, I believe it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had the Sierra Club actually pushing for natural gas as they called it a bridge fuel. You know, it would be a lower emissions alternative to coal for generating electricity. Now, when the fracking revolution really got underway, you know, of course, it's produced a lot of oil, but it's had an even bigger impact on natural gas. And all of a sudden, when natural gas becomes a viable energy source in itself, one that could completely replace coal, but also completely eliminates the need for things like solar and wind, the Sierra Club does a total 180, and they start their Beyond Natural Gas campaign, which was modeled on their Beyond Coal campaign. So, you know, I think you're right. They are ideologically opposed to any fossil fuel. You know, they want wind, solar, not even hydro energy, because that involves building dams, which could disturb the habitats of endangered fish species.
Hey, Lachlan, we only have a minute left. I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell our listeners where they could follow your work, read your articles.
Sure, yeah. We're at freebeacon.com, freebeacon.com, and I'm on Twitter at Lachlan, Lachlan.
Lachlan, I actually think I have a solution to make everyone happy. Okay. Maybe the solution is further space exploration. Let's colonize the moon with all the people who want to live somewhere where there's no gas and oil exploration, and let's see how they want to live. See how long they want to live in the cold and dark, and let's see them build windmills on the moons. Do you like my solution?
Back in the moon, see what we find.
Yeah. Lachlan, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you. Anytime.
Anna, great working with you. Got to make a quick exit here. We're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state, so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show.